Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third year of the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. I'm Tom Kreager, high school sports editor at the Tennessean, joined by Cecil Joyce of the Daily News Journal. Cecil, we're kind of meeting differently this year, of course, due to COVID-19. We're virtual, but we are going to move along with the Bootleg. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting past few months, and hopefully it'll be a good next 3 months.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, folks. Obviously, we're in an uncertainty, a season of uncertainty right now. The season will go on. Games will be played Thursday. We have 4 or 5 games across the state being played Thursday that we'll be attending. Cecil will be at Rockville, Laverne at Rockville, a good Rutherford County matchup. I will be heading down to Tullahoma for Shelbyville, Tullahoma, in a really good two good communities meeting for a great non-region game. Then up in Cookeville at Tennessee Tech, we'll have Gentry Estes, our columnist. He will be at Tennessee Tech, where Upperman will be hosting Cookeville. So 3 big games on Thursday. Of course, there's a game in Knoxville being played, a game in Jackson being played. We'll be at those locations as well with our properties there. But it's like I said, it's a year of uncertainty. We're going virtual this year. We hope to be able to do some things that maybe we couldn't do this way. We hope this year we're planning on bringing in coaches like we did last year. Going to hope to bring in athletes to talk about the season. And I think the big thing is there's every week's going to be kind of an uncertainty of who's playing. And when we look at our top 10 games, 2 of those games were not there at the start of the season. When the schedules were first made, that has to do with the uncertainty. So we're still going to give you guys the best high school coverage in Middle Tennessee at all of our Middle Tennessee properties with of course the Tennessean and the Murfreesboro Daily News Journal and the Leaf Chronicle in Clarksville. Of course, continue to read our stuff online and follow us on our Twitter accounts at Kreager for me and at Cecil Joyce or _ Joyce, Cecil?
_ Joyce.
At Cecil _ Joyce for him. And, it's going to be a great season. I know there's going to be temperature checks. It's going to be weird temperature checks, and everyone's going to have to wear masks, and we're going to answer questions. And, some schools will have other rules. For us as writers, we're going to abide by all of those. We want to stay as safe as possible, and we know you all want to stay as safe as possible to make sure the season goes on with as few hitches as possible. We know there's going to be game changes all year. There's been games being canceled and added like every day the last week. So we know that's going to happen. We're going to continue to update and reassess where we're going every week as games are being changed. Now, I want to talk about our rankings this year. The last 2 or 3 or 4 years, we've ranked every team in Middle Tennessee. Drum roll, please. Oakland's starting the season as our preseason number 1. And obviously, Cecil, you are the Oakland expert. Tell us what makes Oakland so good this year down there in Murfreesboro.
Well, it starts off with the offensive line. They have an outstanding senior group there led by Graham Keaton, also Alex Jones, their center. Both of those guys have a multitude of offers going in. And Coach Creasy running the wing T offense, it all starts up front. And, each year they've been successful the past, 5 or 6 years under Creasy. It's all started up front. And then you can't ignore the fact that they have a transfer from Brentwood Academy in the backfield to run behind that line. Jordan James, outstanding runner, had over 1,000 yards last year in 9 games for Brentwood Academy. He's going to really bolster their offense, where they lost, some key guys last year.
And you look at what Kevin Creasy's done in his tenure, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's never lost to a Middle Tennessee opponent.
He has not. I think he only has 1 regular season loss in the last, 4 seasons going into this season.
Yeah, I think Maryville, and then I know he lost that first game. His first coaching game ever was Hoover, which Thomas McDaniel gave him that gift before he left for Christian Brothers. Played Hoover to open up his career, lost that one, and really outside of Maryville, and then postseason Whitehaven, those are really the only opponents I believe that's ever really beaten him.
Yeah, that's correct. He has not lost to a Rutherford County team or a region opponent in his time at Oakland.
They're at machine status, and we've talked a lot of times what makes them so strong. I think you got to look beyond the players and beyond Kevin Creasy. I think you look at his support staff, his assistant coaches there. Steven Jackson's the defensive coordinator there, and maybe to me is one of them. If there's a coach, if you're looking for a head coach, he would be on one of my top 5 choices to be at least be talking to. And then you got David Watson there too. Just talk about how strong that staff is.
Oh, I mean, any coach will tell you, and you start with Coach Gary Rankin at Alcoa, he'll tell you a great team starts with building a great staff around you. And, these guys have kind of modeled themselves after Coach Rankin. Coach Creasy does a great job bringing in talent in his coaching staff. He has a new coach on staff this year, Jason Dobbs, who will do a great job for them. Coach Watson, one of the best offensive line coaches around. He's been a head coach before. He knows how things work. Steven Jackson, like you said, is probably the hottest name around for anybody who's looking for a head coach. I don't think he's looking to go anywhere. I think he's pretty happy in the role he's at Oakland. But yeah, the staff around Creasy is incredible.
Going to take a look at the top 10 games in Middle Tennessee, and Cecil, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to make you make a prediction. I know. I don't think I told you this, but I think probably from last year you may know it's coming. So we're going to start with what the Tennesseans' game of the week is. This is one of those games, guys. At the beginning of the year, this was not scheduled. This came about in recent weeks when Lipscomb couldn't play Glencliff because Metro's not playing until after Labor Day, and then Brentwood Academy they moved their game with Florence, Alabama, to later in the season. I think both coaches like, hey, we really want to play this season, but at the point it's like we might get delayed, so let's push it back a little bit so we can make sure we play this game. Of course, Will Hester. Name everyone in Middle Tennessee knows. He coached won a state title at Ravenwood, started the Nolensville program, coached was head coach at Laverne, has been at Siegel with David Watson when he was there. He's been around. He's been all over the place. So that game's going to be played later. So anyway, we got Lipscomb at Brentwood Academy, week 1. The old timers will know these two schools played years ago with Glenn McAdams and Carlton Flat. Haven't played in a number of years. You got Trent Dilfer year 2 versus Brentwood Academy, who went 6-4 last year, did not make the playoffs for the first time since the 90s. I think this is an intriguing game because this is an old school game that hasn't been played in years and probably should have been played in recent years. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, first of all, Brentwood Academy is going to be hungry. I mean, how many years in a row had they reached the playoffs to not get there last year? Cody White's an outstanding coach. He'll have this team ready. Now, obviously, they've got some big shoes to fill, including losing James to Oakland. But they actually played a game without him last year as he left early. Trent Dilfer's second year. They say the second year is when you find out what a coach can really do because his system's in place. He's got the guys doing what he wants them to do. I think there's a lot of excitement around this game, but I think Brentwood Academy. I think they're hungry, and then probably, I don't know if there's a better term than hunger for it, but that might be the difference in this week's game.
Here's an interesting thing. First, I think Casey Kalmus, son of Rocky Kalmus, former Titan, I believe he's probably going to be their featured back, or he'll get a number of touches for them this year. He's about 170-pound running back, so I think he's got something to prove. At his weight, can he carry the load? Hard runner. I know Coach White has been really high on what Kaysen has been able to do. But here's the other thing is there's been a couple new faces at Lipscomb. You got Bo Dawson, who is the son of Phil Dawson, former NFL kicker. That family, Phil has joined the staff at Lipscomb, and Bo will be an H-back and maybe play a little bit of defense, but he'll be an H-back on offense. Will help them out tremendously. And then they've got another kid, Willie Barris. He's a kid from Michigan. He's got a couple small offers. He's got a couple, I think Air Force and a couple other schools have offered him. Really speed is a guy that I know Trent is really high on this kid. A fast kid, a DB, and can play wide receiver there. I think you're going to see a little more run game from them this year. I think last year they tried to air it out all over the place. I think they will probably be a little bit more grounded this year to help out some things. But here's the problem. Brentwood Academy is huge up front. You've got Eli Sutton and Noah Josie, both kids on the offensive line. Both of them are Power 5 guys. Eli Sutton has committed to North Carolina. Noah has not committed anywhere yet, but has a ton of Power 5 SEC type offers. So then you get a James Stewart. I think he'll play both ways. He's a Memphis commitment, more of a defensive end, but he'll probably play some up front. And I just don't know that size how that size will pay off. I'm going to predict, so I'll help you out. I'll give you the first score of the year. Brentwood Academy 13, Lipscomb 10.
Well, I was going to ask if you thought defenses were going to be ahead of offenses because, the lack of spring practices and the lack of 7-on-7s and so forth. And I think you answered my question right there with your prediction. I'm going to go along the same route as a defensive matchup. I'm going to go Brentwood Academy 17, Lipscomb 10.
Okay. That's a good point. We don't know if, I think Ron Crawford told me, at Brentwood that he thought, they're going to have some really bad tackling early on because of the rules they had due to COVID. Not everyone may have those same rules, so some defenses might be better than others. Some offenses, there's a lot of unknown. I think the more veteran teams will be in a better spot. The teams that where they know they have a lot of returning starters coming back. Looking at game number 2, Summit at Independence, very well could have been our game of the week had that Lipscomb BA game, and really it was going to be probably Brentwood NBA at one point. That probably would have been a game of the week with Summit Indy being number 2. Of course, that Brentwood NBA game will not happen. So we're going to go Summit at Independence at number 2. Summit came out of nowhere last year with Brian Coleman there, thanks to the twins, Keaton and Destin Wade. They made it all the way to the state championship game in 5A where they lost to Knoxville Central. And I think that showed a lot of people what they're not the wing tee that they've been. They're kind of an Auburn hybrid though. They show a little bit of wing tee stuff, but it's kind of an Auburn look as what I saw last year. But you have 2 really gifted athletes in the twins that are both Power 5 recruits, just juniors. And Indy, Independence is, they lose their quarterback to graduation, so there's questions there. I really like I like Summit to win this game. First, any input you have on Summit? I know you probably saw them in the championship game this year. That's probably the only time you saw them.
It was, but I've seen Independence a little more. And the thing about that team is losing a quarterback or not, they seem to just reload on quarterbacks better than most teams do. I think it's going to be probably one of the more higher scoring games of the week 1.
Okay. What you got for a score?
I'm going to go Independence 28, Summit 24.
I'm going Summit 28, Independence 14. All right, let's go game that where you'll be at, CPA at Riverdale. If I didn't say it, Lipscomb at BA, that will be where I will be at. CPA at Riverdale, another one of those games that was not originally scheduled. CPA loses the game with Evangelical Christian. It would have been a rematch of last year's championship game. I think basically ECS declined wanting to drive all the way to Nashville during the pandemic. Riverdale loses, I think, a Clarksville team, Northeast when Clarksville decided to not play the first 2 weeks. And with all that being said, I'll move it over to you. CPA at Riverdale, what you got?
Well, this is the third time the 2 teams have ever met. Riverdale won twice in 2003, 2004, but that was back during Riverdale's heyday under Rankin. CPA outstanding team, made it to the D2 AA championship game last year. They have a ton of talent returning, including Langston Patterson. This team is very, very good, but this Riverdale team is very, very good as well. Maybe probably one of their best teams over the last decade. They're strong on defense. They return a ton of starters on defense, including Javon Nelson, a defensive end who has quite a few Division I offers. You have linebacker Elijah Herring has quite a few Division I offers, and they have an Ensworth transfer, Javon Edwards, who is going to play the other defensive end. There's going to be Javon Bookmarks, a defensive end for Riverdale. They're just really, really, really strong on that side. If they can get the offense going under first-year starter Jameson Holcomb at quarterback, I think Riverdale has a really, really big year ahead of them. I think this is going to be another one of those defensive games, in my opinion.
Okay. I think it'll be defensive, at least on one side. I like the CPA team a lot. a lot of key pieces are back from last year. I know there is some questions probably on the offensive line, and maybe even the defensive line, but especially the offensive line, where we look at, are they ready to carry the load there? You get Cade Law back at quarterback. I saw him at practice. Did not look like the same quarterback from a year ago when he was a sophomore starter. Looked much improved. Looked like he can. I think he was a junior starter last year. I think Cade is ready to lead this team into a special season. I think Maverick Rodriguez, and wide receiver DB, really came on strong last season. I think he's ready for a great season on offense and probably some defense as well. Tyler Reed, a running back, combined with Langston Patterson, will get more. Langston Patterson, younger brother of Kane Patterson, who's now at Clemson. He's going to be special, folks. He's a junior linebacker. You're already getting a lot of Power 5 offers. He's going to be special. Great. I think he's in great shape right now, probably in better shape than his brother was going into his junior season. So I look for good things out of him as well. And then you got Ingle Martin as the head coach, and I really admire what he's done there. He's made that program, to me, a top 15, program in the state every year, maybe even top 10. I'm going to say CPA 35, Riverdale 7. I think this defense for CPA is going to be very special this year.
I agree. I think it's going to be a lot more of a defensive game than that. I think it's going to be CPA 24, Riverdale 17.
Okay. Gallatin at Lebanon is our next game. Well, this is an old school game. This is a game that has been played for years and years and years. These are two schools that need to play year in and year out. Chad Watson goes into his second season. Chuck Gentry's done a great job at Lebanon. They've got the I think it's DeQuante Shannon, or last name is Shannon, the running back there at Lebanon. That's going to have a great – if they play 10 games and he's able to play all 10 games, he could end up being the best running back record-wise, statistic-wise, that Lebanon's ever had. But Gallatin has come a long way. He had a team there that wasn't making the playoffs to finishing second in that region, and they lost to Summit in that first round, and what most people thought might have been an upset in that first round. But then you look at what Summit did, and obviously it wasn't an upset. But I'm just gonna say right now, I like Gallatin. I think when we talk about defensive games, I think this could be a low-scoring game if Gallatin can stop the Lebanon run game. I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna say my score, and I'll let you talk about anything you want. Gallatin 17, Lebanon 10.
Another defensive game. Coach Watson has done a great job reviving football in Gallatin, and that's a football-starved town there, as you know, tradition-rich. In Lebanon, they've had a great job at Lebanon as well. I think you can throw out the fact that it's 6A versus 5A in this game. These are two very, very pretty evenly matched programs. I'm going to go defense as well. I'm going to say Gallatin 14, Lebanon 10.
Okay. We're going to speed up our process a little bit. Friendship at Trousdale. This is a great rivalry game. You're talking about their communities there. Trousdale, they make it to the semifinals, I believe, last year. In Satterfield's first, it's not Clint. His name just, his first name just escaped me. Coach Satterfield's first season there, and they are a team that can get to the 2A championship game. John McNeil at Friendship, they had been to the state championship game the first 2 years in D2A. Two of the last 3 years, they didn't make it last year. It was USJ. I look for them to be in contention for another spot in a championship game. If we can make it to Cookeville, I think both of these teams have a shot at being there in their respective classes. I
agree. Trousdale County, they're like an Oakland. They're like some of these teams like Oakland, Brentwood Academy. They're just machines every year. Mm-hmm. You can't go wrong picking them in any game. But I think this is a great early season test for them. Friendship Christian is always right in that D2 single A mix.
I'm going to go Trousdale 21, Friendship 20.
I'm going to go Trousdale 17, Friendship 13.
Okay. One of those other games that was not on the schedule to start the season, I said before, Brentwood NBA got canceled due to NBA not sitting out the first couple of weeks. Nolensville's first game, I believe it was a Metro team, maybe. I believe, anyway, they lost their game. Brentwood at Nolensville. Great. That's a 6A versus a 4A. It's two of the better Williamson County quarterbacks in Cade Granzel at Brentwood and Ryder Gallardi at Nolensville. I think I give my nod to Brentwood in this game. You look at Cade Granzel, who recently just got, he's an Auburn baseball commitment, but he has got an offer just recently from Vanderbilt football. I think he does want to play football. We'll see what he does. And you got Walker Merrill, the Tennessee commitment there at wide receiver, and John House, the fourth there, and he's got a lot of Power 5 offers. I just think the manpower tells me Brentwood wins this game, and I'm going to say I think there'll be some sloppiness early, but I think 28-14 Brentwood over Nolensville.
I think this could be a special season for Coach Ron Crawford's team down there at Brentwood. You could be seeing them in the Class 6A championship game before the season's over, at least in the semifinals against a Whitehaven or Houston. I'm going to go pretty high-scoring game here. I'm going to go Brentwood 31-21.
Okay. Beach at Powell, another one of these games. This is the Knoxville New Sentinels game of the week. Beach had their game with Northside canceled about a week ago, and Northside shut down – Jackson schools shut down football for the first couple of weeks. Powell lost their game with Greenville a little bit earlier, so this kind of came out quickly. It's interesting, with this game only happening, being made, Sunday, I think. There's not a lot of preparation. Of course, there's no video of from this year anyway. They can trade films of last year. That's the interesting thing about this makeup of how the season is going to go. How quickly games could be made, and then how do you research that opponent? There's going to be they could be made really quick. Anthony Crabtree, I believe he went 10-0 in the regular season, lost to Shelbyville, I believe, in the second round or quarterfinals. Powell, great season there. I think they're a little bit down from a year ago. I think Beach wins this game thanks to their run game there. I'm going to say Beach 17, Powell 13.
We're going on records from last year. This is probably the top game of the week. These two teams combined to go 23-2 last year. They're only lost each of them was in the playoffs. I'm going to go Beach 20 and Powell 14.
Yeah, and this is this is one of those games that it's not. I'm not going to say this is a tune-up of the state finals by any mean, because I think both teams have got a lot to prove. But you look in 5A, you look at the top 5 teams in the West. I would say Beach is in that mix. If you told me name me the top 5 to 7 or 8 teams in the East, I would say Powell's in that mix. That makes this really an interesting game to me with a cross section of East versus West, to see where we are in week 1. Speaking of East versus at least Middle Tennessee, next game, Blackman at Alcoa. Gary Rankin gets to play against another Blackman team. Last year he came down to Blackman and won. Of course, he played against Blackman for many years when he was at Riverdale. What's your thoughts on this game?
Well, it was a really good game last year. The final score was pretty close. It still wasn't even indicative of how close the game. Blackman led that game 1 point, led 14-9 at halftime, and the second half was just all Alcoa. They won 23-14. It's hard to ever bet against Gary Rankin coach team. It's betting against Alcoa, 5-time defending state champion in their classification. It would be hard to pick Blackman in this game, but Blackman's still big. Blackman's still fast. They're reloading a little bit from last year, but they have a quarterback, Drew Beam, back. They have an outstanding athlete in Todd Lark back. I think those two guys will keep Blackman's offense in the game. It's just a matter of how can Blackman stop Alcoa's offense. You
make up a good point there. I think, it's early season and we don't know how things are going to be. That's the one tough thing on this. Blackman with Drew Bean, he's I think Alcoa is going to have a first-time starter there. Their starter from last year moved to California. So Drew Beams, a third-year starter there. He's got, but he doesn't have the pieces he's had there the last 2 years. So that's my question. And you talk about the big guys up front. They got 2 talented linemen there, the Jackson kid, and there's another kid,
John Hartman.
Yeah, John Hartman there. They've both gotten a ton of offers there. So I think I like that. I am going to say Alcoa wins this game 28-7.
I'm going to say Alcoa wins 28-17.
Okay. And then we go Fairview at Page. This is a big rivalry game in Williamson County. It's a small versus a bigger. It's a 3A versus 5A, but it's a rivalry game. They got the Nardozzi kid at Fairview, Logan Nardozzi, the running back there. You get Page. There's going to have the Walker and Bubba show is going to be over because they both graduated. I think Kyle McNamara, who was a transfer from Lipscomb, he may be their starter at quarterback. It'll be interesting to see what they do at quarterback there. I know there's a couple other ones battling there. I think this is a really good game. That if I could be cloned, this might be the second or third best game to really think about going to of the games we're not going to be at this week. But I'm going to say Page. Page wins this game 35-27.
I'm going to say Page 23-20.
Okay. And finally, last game of the week, Stewarts Creek at Mount Juliet. This was an upset in year one. And granted, the Malik Bowen, the big star player they had last year who signed with Duke, I think he went out early in that game, so they didn't have him. So they won without him. Obviously that changed a little bit of the game, but bottom line, Stewarts Creek beat Mount Juliet last year. I think Mount Juliet players are going to remember that. It's at Mount Juliet this year. You got a first-year coach, Ben Caudill, going against Trey Perry. What do you think about this game?
Well, last year, Stewarts Creek won that game on defense. They had a very veteran, senior-led defensive group, and it led them all season, not just in that game. And this was the best season in Stewarts Creek history. And they graduated 90% of that starting lineup. So it's really a retooling, rebuilding, reloading, whatever you want to call it, Coach Caudill. Mount Juliet's a little more veteran, although they've lost some players. They lost their quarterback from last year. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't think Stewarts Creek can go into Mount Juliet with this young of a team and expect big things. I'm going to go with Mount Juliet winning this game 27-16.
I'm going to say Mount Juliet wins this game 34-14. And that's the end of our games. Obviously, we're going to keep track of this and we'll have some bragging rights in the office, if nothing else, at least virtual offices. But folks, you've been watching the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. It's week 1 of the high school football season. Didn't know if we were going to make it this far, but we've made it to game week. We made it to week 1 and let the games be played. And folks, just please wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance, do what you need to do to stay safe. And if you see me in a game, if you see us at the game, please say hello. Do not come up to us and give us any hugs because we do not want that. But we would be glad to talk to you at games. A little elbow maybe, or at least a wave.
Air fist bump.
Yeah. So this has been Tom Kreager with the Tennessean, Cecil Joyce with the Daily News Journal. We'll see you. We'll see you at the game Friday night, and some of us Thursday night.